Madhavadeva. This session is devoted for the theme, the many facets personality. And this session is going to be chaired by none other than Dr. Rabindra ji. And in this, रत्नोत्तम दास जी, भगत ज्योति शर्मा जी और अरिंदम बोरकाटकी जी is going to present the paper. And may I request Secretary Sir to kindly honor the dignitaries with the gift of books. Starting with रत्नोत्तम दास जी, नेक्स्ट भास्कर ज्योति शर्मा जी, followed by Arindam ji. Thank you very much, sir. Now, it is over to the chair to take further proceedings of the session. Ma'am.
Thank you very much and welcome to the last session of this very auspicious occasion. We are here to celebrate the glories and contributions of Mahotsav. We have already listened to several papers describing Madhavadeva as a person of versatile genius. His contribution to Assamese spiritual world and to literature and culture and performing arts are very, very valuable. We have already enjoyed his poetic quality, deliberation on his poetic quality, his musical beauty, and many other aspects. Today it is the last session and it is on the manifested personality of Mahotsav. Actually, he is a man of great personality, uncomparable to any person of his time. He sometimes overcomes his Guru Shankar's. He will not tolerate his performance. But actually, his depth of poetic sensibility, his creative power is much more close to the common people. So we have three papers today. First paper is Dr. Thomas and Dr. Thomas literary contribution of Madhavadeva. So it is a very vast topic and concluding within the limited time. I hope it is a very it will be going to be a very interesting and good paper. And please, Rabindra, you proceed on with your paper.
Before that, may I introduce Dr. Ratnottam Das ji to the August gathering. She is a noted Assamese writer and scholar and presently working as an associate professor in the Department of Modern Indian Languages and Literary Studies, Delhi University. She has two critically acclaimed published books to her credit. She is known for a newspaper columnist in Assam as well as writing two fortnightly columns in reputed Assamese dailies. She is the recipient of Travel Grant Scheme of Sahitya and prestigious state level recognition by Bhavan.
My greetings to all of you, without spending much time, I would love to go to the topic directly because as I have already mentioned, it's too vast. My topic is literary contribution of Madhavadeva. The topic itself says that it is vast, literary contribution. The first point, the word literary contribution, I would like to say two comments. First of all, I I must have to tell you, this topic was not chosen by me, it was given to me. Or you can say that topic chose me for this occasion. So I'm privileged to speak about my Guru Madhavadeva, our Guru Madhavadeva on this topic. First of all, when we say literary contribution, there is a very fine line between what is literary contribution and what is cultural contribution. How can you confine Guru Madhava's contribution only literary? How can you confine, how can you differentiate between the cultural contribution and literary contribution? How can I speak about the literary contribution without talking about the cultural contribution? Then come to the second point. How is it possible to speak everything, cover everything in a very short span? Almost all of us know that there are different ways to present a topic. One is of course reading and presenting. Another is covering the whole topic bit by bit or presenting it in a nutshell. And the third way is pick up a topic, one major point, one major aspect of the topic, then relate it to the other aspects. In my methodology, I am going to do the third, mixing with the second one. I hope you will be patient enough, will allow me. And before I speak, I will tell you that I might say something a little bit personal, which is definitely not too personal. If I say so, please excuse me, this is definitely related to the topic only. Because the topic demands, or in that context only, I will say something. To begin with, directly, the literary contribution. We can divide the literary contribution in 4 sectors. This has already been done by different scholars of Assamese literature. Sahitya, they already have very famous series, makers of Indian literature. In that series, long back in 1985, the great Satyendra Sharma, he has already written Madhavadeva. In that small book, enough is written about his literary contribution. Nowadays, when it's a click away to know about the names, the listing, or just to give an account, what I wanted to do, not just providing a list of this book, not just giving an account of what he did, or what is there. My intention is to throw some lines, try to provoke your thoughts, and generate the interest. Again, once again. I'm using the word once again because all of us, we are so familiar, Mahotsav is inside us. So, as I have already told, that all the scholars have already made the sectors, 4 sectors. The first is Akhyanmulak or the descriptive ones. 2 major contributions, Rajogika and the Adikand of Brahman. I'm not going to describe too much. Who is the vector, how many cantos, what are the chapters, these are all information only. But just for the information. The Adikanda is of course the Adikanda of Ramayana. In Sanskrit Ramayana, we know about the 5 and 7 chapters division. Debate is still going on whether the Adi and Uttarakhand was there or not. Whatever. Adikanda was done by Mahotsav and Uttarakhand was his guru. Rajakui, again, critically acclaimed Kavya, lyrical verse, which was based on the Srimad Bhagavad from 69 to 74 chapters. The second sector of Mahadeva's contribution is the poetic, the lyrics of the folk. We can say Akademi or doctrinal treatise. Here we have 4. Namdukha. I don't think I need to explain anything after listening to Kormi value. Not any single line is needed to be already finished. Janmarahasya, taking the origin from Janmapuran. Bhakti-Ratnavali and Namani. Of these 4, 2 are included in the 4 pillars of Bhakti of Assam. Kirtan, Laham, Bhar-Ratnavali. Out of these four, Kirtan and Lokhom are by Sankaradeva, and these two are mine. Then comes the Jumura or the Nats. Before discussing that, I'll just mention about the Geet and Bhotima. Again, I can skip the whole chapter because Torali Madhavadeva has already mesmerized us with her vocal rendering and rendition. So Madhavadeva's contribution, the Geet, the Borgits, and the Bhotima, and the Natrogit. There are numbers, like some say it is 155, some say it is 157 Borgit. Sir, how many Natrogits? 9 Bhotimas, out of which one is Deva Bhotima.
43 Natrogits.
Thank you, sir. So these are the information. Then I will come to the last point, Jumura or the Nat. I'm discussing in the last phase because I'm going to put emphasis on only one aspect. The reason is very simple. Time doesn't allow me. Another reason, of course, it has already been discussed for last 2 days for so many systems. These Jumuras and Nat, these are one act play which was originated from Sankaradeva. In the name of Madhavadeva, there are 9. In fact, there are more, but 9. Out of 9, 5. These 5, there is no doubt that those were composed by Madhavadeva. Other 4, there are some controversy whether they are written by Madhavadeva or not. These 9 are Arjun Bhanjan, which is the only Nat, not Jumura. Sodhara, Pimpara Goswa, Bhumi Lutwa, Bhujan Bihar, Brahma Mohan, Rakhura, Bhuhan Horan, and Shubra. Apart from these, there are some mention in the chariots, the biographical account of the same poets of Assam, Indian Assam. There are some mention, like Nirsingh Jatra, Govardhan Jatra, Ram Jatra, Kita, and Assam. So lots of controversies are there, whether these are written by Madhavadeva or not. Mostly, perhaps not. Some songs, some more songs, where the last line is written, Kohoya Madhavadeva se something. Some people claim that those were composed by Madhavadeva, but mostly not. The scholars have already argued so many things. Of these Jumuras, these are actually my, you can say, my personal favorites. I love to give you small, very small example from Sodhara and Pimpara. These are actually related. The story is related. And for those who are here, present here, who are not a speaker like my friend Rabindra or maybe some other people, for those, because these things are not new to us. We know the stories, we know the, but I'm trying to tell from different point of view. So for those, I'll tell you, these Jumuras, these are like one day I can already told. But these are even more compact than Sankardeva's 6 ornaments, the Jumuras. Very short, it's according to situation, it will depict only one particular situation and it will take the grip, it will engage the audience, it will engage them. This one, interestingly, the medieval saint poet, Bilba Mangal, who is known as Lilashuka or Belmoli in Assam. His slokas, only 2-3 slokas, Madhavadeva took in from the slokas, and he described the situation in such a way that if I discuss now, I am going to discuss now, if I discuss this situation, the whole literary quality, the expertise, the skill of Madhavadeva will be revealed. The first one, in Sanskrit is mentioned, Kashtam Bala, Balanuzasta Mika, Manmana Mandira Sankara. Madhavadeva has written, if I speak, if I don't need to translate it. Muro Kore Kenal Mi, Boloya Gwali, Bolai Koisthamoy, Boloya Bolama.
Muro Kore Buli Ayu. Forget it, that I think that it is my house.
Yes.
Next line.
This is the first line. Muro Kore Kenal Mi, Boloya Bolamadi, Bolai Koisthamoy, অষ্টম বালা, because of Balan. So I have just quoted from printed books. I am not just okay. Then in that Jumura, in a very small one-act play, first the Sanskrit sloka, then the song. It can be sung. There is a proper raga into it. Then after that, the dialogues come. The Gowali, she asked, oh hey Balak, Moro Khare Tumoke. Hey little boy, who are you in my house? Who are you inside my house? And Krishna replies, Krishna Bulala, Hamako nahi chino. You don't know me. Don't you know me? Moi Bala Patrak Panishtamai. I am the younger brother of Bala. Interestingly, Krishna is not telling I am Krishna directly. He is not telling I am the son of Nanda or Yasoda. He is taking the name of his elder brother. Because he knows he was caught red-handed by the milkmaid, the Gwali. And after getting caught by the Gwali in the act of theft, stealing makhan, the Indian white butter, not the ghee or a clarified butter, of course, not the butter directly, the particular logonu or white butter. He was caught red-handed. Okay, let me tell you just one line. This makhan, it's not actually butter as I have told you. If we go from Delhi to Agra or Delhi to Mathura, there are so many places where you will get Shuddha Noni, that is Shuddha Lavanu. Shuddha Noni is used the word in Maharashtra, but Lavanu is not the makhan. I don't know why everywhere makhan is described in Assamese literature also, but as an Assamese I can tell I have never tasted butter, the real makhan in my life until I came to Delhi. I had Amul butter, I had ghee, but not makhan, not lavani, not lomi. Okay, this is just for reference only, because it is inside my mind, that's why I am telling you. Maybe because of the reason that Shankar Madhav and the other saint poets, they took from the medieval northern bhakti poets reference. Maybe that is the reason, so the word was anyway, so Krishna was caught red-handed. So instead of telling his father's name or mother's name, he told his brother's name. Beware of my powerful brother. It's sort of. Then this is how. The next, again, it's again written in Sanskrit. Again, the line is from Bilvamangal. Vadani nabanita gandhavaham vatsane tatskara chatura gurinam kanukule hunore gopinidaruni tohara mukhota gandha toishe suruni. He is putting the blame on the milkmaid. He is telling that I am not the thief. Your mouth smells like lavanu. Your mouth smells like you are the thief. Here I remember Surdas, the great blind, I'm sorry, let me use the word blind, he's a Italian saint poet of India. I remember Surdas. Surdas is Krishna and Mahotsav is Krishna, so much of similarities. The young Krishna, the living Krishna. As Rabindra said, we can imagine closing our eyes. Surdas Krishna says, Moya re meri makhan khayo, karo khayala, sakhi sabamiri, mero muh laptayo. He is blaming, Madhavadeva Krishna is blaming the milkmaids, the Govalis, and Surdas Krishna is blaming his Sakhas that I am not a thief. My friends only smearing butter on my face. So beautiful. The description goes just in few lines. Then again the conversation. The Govalis said, okay, I came to know, got to know that you are a great Krishna, you are a brother, but why did you come to my place? I don't just now. Why did you come to my place? And Krishna replies, in a very naughty way, oh, I forgot the way. I thought this is my house. That's why I entered. Then immediately the gopi says, okay, that's right. You did a mistake by mistakenly you came to my house. But why did you wake up my little child who is sleeping? Krishna already woke up the little kid who was sleeping and he gave some makhan to the kid also. The kid maybe he cannot speak even. Another lie. Lies after lie. Then Krishna says, oh, I woke up your kid just to ask about my calf. I was taking care of my cows and one calf was missing. I wanted to ask him about that. Again he was caught. another line. Then again the gopi says, oh, everything is alright, but why your hand is there in a pot of butter, pot of makhan? Then Krishna said, oh, I was just removing the ants from there, and after that he has no reply. He has no reply. Then what he does? He just smears the makhan in the gopi's mouth, and he starts blaming her. See, this is the proof. I'm going to tell my father, and you are afraid of your husband, and you are blaming me. And the gopi starts laughing, and the story goes on. Krishna starts dancing, and the gopi also knows, and it's a very happy, buoyant moment. Light moment, everybody starts dancing, and this is how the story. It's not only a small situation. I'm giving an example only from one Jumura, only one situation. I'm not going to give you more and more examples, and these are also equally interesting, I'm sure. So, here I'd like to say that there is a point. The point is, in Madhavadeva's Jumuras, the Rasha, it's Vatsalya, Bhakti, it's Hashyamani. But there is no Vayanak, Veer, Sringar, nothing. As Ba said, you can see some colors that are all red and black. These are not there. It's very calm, peaceful, and these are actually, my point is here, everything is for the children. Which point we have not yet discussed. Why can't we discuss Madhavadeva's contribution as contributions towards children literature? Maybe it is one of its kind. Most probably it is for the first time written in any regional Indian language, this type of poetry, where each and every line can be taken by the students, children. It's appropriate. It's appropriate for any children. Whereas some other work of some other saint poet, including Madhavadeva, some other works may not be appropriate for the children. There may be some Vayanak Rasha, there may be some violence, the description of war and everything. But here, nowhere, not even a single word. Nowadays, the modern psychologists, the child specialists, everybody, they will examine, scrutinize each and every word that will go to the child's mind. Earlier times, we were not that much conscious whether Tesmola story should be included in children literature or not. But nowadays, so in this prospect, that Madhavadeva's contribution to children literature, then so many borgits can also be included. Even children, early teen, adolescent people, they can enjoy, they can generate their interest in this book. Here, as I told you in the beginning, that if I tell something personal, please excuse me. I'll tell you one personal experience of mine. Troliva is sitting here, but I'll tell you the truth. I cannot sing at all. That quality is not inside me. I cannot sing, simply I cannot sing. I can paint, but I cannot sing, I cannot dance. I became a mother, and my little baby, my infant, it was on my lap, and I was clueless what to do, because I cannot even sing 2 lines of it, lullaby, not even Marite Bori. What to do, how to put him into the school. Surprisingly, I started rendering the kantha. Though my voice is very bad, though I cannot sing as I have revealed. And surprisingly, it was a lull. It was a lull and the baby was asleep. And I discovered a trick. That means, ho-ha, all the hosas. These are, we have always discussed from a religious point of view, spiritual point of view, then why not this point of view? That the hosas can be used as lullabies. Because of the rhythm, because of the tone, because of the lyric, whatever. It worked in my case. It really helped. So the Naam Boha, all the Bohas, these are inside each and every Assamese persons. So we cannot confine, we cannot discuss from only one aspect, the literary aspect, or another aspect. Now, I'll come to the last part of my paper, because 2 more presenters are there. One presenter, I think, he will speak about the language, so I can skip that. Take any piece, just pick any piece of Madhavadeva's literary work. It bears all the characteristics of all the literature, or spiritual literature, everything. Or you can go on praising about the use of rhythm, alliteration, simile, metaphor, everything. So I'm just skipping that part. If you're interested, of course, I would love to discuss, but because time doesn't permit me, I will go to that last part. In the last part of my presentation, because esteemed guests are sitting here, maybe some outcome will be there. I have something in my mind. One is, we should focus more and more and more on translation. Whatever has been done is not actually enough. We need more translation. In 1957, Bhavan Theological University published one bilingual novel. It was done by Harmohan Das. I only have the information, nothing beyond that. I have not seen the book. In 1997, Saroj Datta translated Nambo into English. But we need more. Then, what is in my mind? Why there is no animation film? Why can't we turn these Juras into animated films? So that the new generation will be more interested. This is also in my mind. And this is, you can say, sort of proposal. And then, the last, I would like to say, I gave an example of Bhavan. Similarly, Madhavadeva and Amrit. Only one example. Because I cannot sing, I'll just render. Utho uthore bapu gopal he nishi boro pator helo. Komona nayana huli khane khana jokhua dakile. The night is over. Wake up. She is telling her son Krishna. Then, the word Gawat Sali, yawning. The little Krishna is yawning. Gawat Sali is on intro. Just take a yawn and wake up, my little boy. Sobu Puru Sobu, Tumi Sirupani, Tumi He Bapu. You are alone. But interestingly, whenever I look at my little baby, whether it is a boy or girl, it's a boy. But even if it's a girl, you can see, if you have read Madhavadeva, if you have listened Madhavadeva, if you have talked something about Madhavadeva, you will see that Gawasali in the early morning. That is a wish. And that moment, it comes into my mind because I love art and painting like anything. All the works of Madonna and Child, Madonna Lita, Vinci, Botticelli, all the Renaissance artists and the sculptors, it comes all of a sudden, all comes into one line, that is Gawasali in the and the baby. Each and every baby, be it a girl or boy, in Assam, in India, it's Lord Krishna, it's little Krishna. This is the contribution of Madhavadeva to us, to our nation-making process, and to our life. It cannot be confined only in books or in seminars or in lectures. This is what I would like to say. Otherwise, I will order me to stop. So this much for today's presentation. I hope I'm on time.
Thank you, Ratnadama, for your very nice presentation. It was a good discussion about Madhavadeva's literary contribution to Assamese literature, not Assamese, to Indian literature. We have discussed the playlists, the Zumuras, in a beautiful way, and you described how the cunning and clever character of Shifu Krishna Balagopala was presented there. And from your discussion, everybody will feel the style psychology as revealed by Madhavadeva in through the character of Shifu Krishna. Another important point, we have pointed out yesterday that there are similarities of Madhavadeva's Sudas, Madhavadeva's Shifu Krishna, and Sudas's Balagopala in the devotional songs and small playlists, etc. And you have also discussed the Borgits, which is different types of beauty. As time do not permit you, we cannot make it details, but it is very good observations. And finally, you said about the musical touch of the Namkusa that interests all of us. So, if there are some questions maybe arise from the audience, I will give it to the after reading of 3 questions. Then our next participant is Astrology Bhavan.
Just one clarification. Dr. has said that there are 5 churas attributed to Madhavadeva. What are those?
It's 6 now.
There are 9 according to the books. Arjun Bhanjan, which is known as Jatra. It is mentioned in the last line, Iti Arjun Bhanjanam Jatra Samarthana.
কিন্তু অর্জুন পুনঃ ডকুমেন্ট সংগ্রহ করা হয়েছে
Yes, that is the second part. Thank you. I was about to say it's also known as the Jatra because of its characteristics. Arjun Bhanjan, Khora, Pimpra Gura, Bhumidura,
হোসেন বেটার
Bhujan.
হোসেন বেটার
These are five, and these four, five are, there is no discussion anymore, that these are written in the other four, there are some controversies left.
By those commit on Khonkhirwai.
Yeah, and Bhattendra and Karma also. Because they are just saying about Barona, 12 dramas are there in structural division. There are 6 plays of Sankotaka already exist. And to complete the 6 of Madhavadeva, we must add another one from the remaining 4. Then in the aspects of characteristics, I want to include Bhushan Harma in the 6th phase of Madhavadeva. It will complete Varuna or 12 dramas of structural division. Okay. Then our next participant is Bhaskar Jyoti Sharma. Please introduce.
Dr. Bhaskar Jyoti Sharma ji is a noted Assamese scholar and has 3 published books to his credit beside 10 papers in international journals. He is the founder, president of Society for Language Technology Development, Assam, and served as a language investigator at the Central Institute of Indian Languages, Mysore, presently working as associate professor department of language and linguistics at Anundaram Borwa Institute of Languages, Art and Culture, Assam.
Okay, I welcome Bhaskar Jyoti to present his paper on language and translation of Madhavadeva, the linguistic tradition of Bhakti. Please.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And respected chairperson of this session, and I give my respect to the officials of the Sahitya Akademi and respected learned personalities present here. This is the last session, and I feel that coming from the melodies, coming from the music's feelings and thoughts, devotions, after that, if I throw someone to the core linguistics, then it will be hardly possible to bear these things in this session. But I compelled to speak about the linguistics. On the aspect of linguistics, I try to analyze some point. And I already, lots of paper presenters already downloaded, and it is released me from many points, and I am coming to the salient points of what I am going to say in respect to the linguistic analysis and tradition and the evolution of Assamese language from the Madhavadeva, Sankotaka, and what is the role of Bhakti movement? What is the role of Bhakti movement in developing the regional language of India, particularly in Assam? So, I am starting my journey when I give my respect to Rabindra Dada, and when he suggests me to study on this area, I start my journey from one line from the C.C. Kumar Das, and he rightly says that, I quote, most of the movement, if not all, that are considered parts of medieval Bhakti have both linguistics and geographical domains. It is actually mentioned by the Professor Mahotsav in the session. So at that time, when Bhakti movement starts, and I feel when I start my journey towards this age, then the language changing of the Indian language starts from the this Prakrit age of the language. It starts from the 6th century BC to 6th century AD. So this is the point of Bhakti movement, and I feel that from Shankaracharya to Ramanujan, there is a transition in Bhakti movement and similar transition in the language also. Because Ramanujan, he was in the Gyan Marga and Shankaracharya was the Gyan Marga, was in Gyan Marga, and Ramanujan, he sends it to the Bhakti Marga, and Bhakti Marga goes to the common people. Common people. So that is the point to analyze how the vernacular language and dialect and regional language developed by the patronization of the Bhakti movement. Bhakti movement actually patronized the local language, and that is the period when the Apabhranka starts. Apabhranka and that 8th century, from 8th century maybe to 10th to 12th century, it is the time of Abhatta and the time of the beginning of the modern Indian languages. So this is the right point, and I feel that I would like to request Sahitya Akademi to bring those people together on the aspect of the language development of the pan-Indian language development. So this is the crucial point, and Bhakti movement has the tremendous, the crucial role on the development of the regional language as it is validated as a standard language in every stage of India. So there are 5 Prakrits and there are 5 Apabhransas and Abhavattas up to the 10th century. So I got surprised that what Bhakti movement has a role in the development of the regional language. So at the time, I have found that 2 different main primary trends have patronized the regional language to develop as a standard language. There's one are the saints who don't have that formal education like public. They have much contribution than the others in that period. But in Assam, I'm coming to the Assam situation of Assam. Madhavadeva and Shankardev and Madhavadeva, both are well learned and they have the well institutional education, and they have the tremendous skill on the Sanskrit. But the Madhavadeva, you see what is the difference between the age of the Madhavadeva and Shankardev? It is the important in 41 years. But it is important for the linguistic development, because 50 years, around 50 years, lots of senses has been occurred in any languages. Even you see the 2 generations. My daughter, hardly 15 years or 20 years. There are lots of difference from father to daughter, father to son's language. So what kind of language sense will be happen on that 50 years? So I am again surprised that very least study has been done on the language of the Marathi. Even most of the linguists, most of the scholars, even Manikanta Kakati or the Rabindra Goswami, they skipped from Shankardev to Bhattadeva. Madhavadeva is not there. I have seen that Asamiya Bhagar Udbhav Samriddhi Aru Vikas. This is a prominent book of Rabindra Goswami. He write down the development of Assamese language in terms of linguistics, but he skipped the Madhavadeva. That is the sacrality. Then I have least amount of that literature I actually found in the literature to analyze the language of Madhavadeva and what is the contribution of Madhavadeva in the development of Assamese language. So I took some examples from the Namgokha and other writings, and I analyzed from my own. So I have no that idea what kind of senses have been done and what kind of analysis has been done by the other scholars. So I skip my many points here because it is already spoken in previous papers. So I am coming to the linguistic features. So we know that in Assamese there is no retroflex and dental sounds. Retroflex murdharna, that is murdharna and dental. But we have 2 letters, dental and retroflex. Murdhanata, we in our orthographic system there is dantyata, 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 dantyata. But we don't utter as dantya, dental. We utter it alveolar. And another series is there, we call it Murdhanata, 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 Murdhanana. But we don't utter it at all in retroflex position, Murdhana. Murdhana is ta, tha, da, dha. Dantya is ta, tha, da, dha. But Assamese don't utter like that. We utter ta, tha, da, da. It is alveolar, usually. In Madhavadev's writing, it is very difficult to find out the phonological features in the written text. Actually, we need some recordings of the speech so that we can find out the phonological features. But on the text, I found some features. That means Madhavadev used Dantya and Murdhana randomly. It is a very notable point. He used Dantyana and Murdhana randomly. In same word, he used Dantyana in other places. It is Murdhana. So that means the utterance of Dantyana and Murdhana, Dantyata and Murdhana is diluted to the alveolar tone. So it is actually in linguistics analysis, in the tradition of linguistic analysis, we found that Dantya and Murdhana, the difference between Dantya and Murdhana, particularly in the Assam, it is completely diluted to the alveolar. So in practice stage, in the late practice stage, it is diluted. And in Abhahatha, in Apabranka and Abhahatha, we don't find that kind of retroflexion. It is used in Uriya, it is used in Oriya, it is there. And Dravidian language, it is Tamil, Telugu, it is there. Retroflex is very prominent. Another point I found here in phonology is that distinction of long and short vowel. Distinction of long and short vowel, that's Hasui Vipari. So we should put another nomenclature for the E and U, that is Rassoi. We have to say, we have to teach Rassoi. What is Rassoi? There is no Rassoi in Assamese. And similar thing is I found in the Madhavadeva writing. That means in Sankaradeva, most of the in Sankaradeva writing, I found that one kind of uniformity of using the retroflex and rasa and Virgo sounds. So after that, 50 years, after 50 around 54 years, it is already diluted. It is Madhavadeva picked up from the common people's language, and lots of morphological features also. I am coming to this point. And phonemic value of alveolar unvoiced fricative. Alveolar unvoiced fricative, that is saw. There is two saw in Assamese language. Pratham saw, we call it Pratham saw and Ditiya saw, but there is no distinction between the Pratham saw and Ditiya saw. So same thing is happening in Mahotsav writing, that randomly these are used, and we need some what is called textual criticism, because lots of modern writings it made uniform. I found some examples of Namhoka in the manuscript, that is Sasipat manuscript. I found it that there is these sounds are used, these letters are used randomly. So textual criticism should be done in proper way. After then we can find out the phonological features of the Madhavadeva writing. And another is utterance of re in Oriya, ru, it is vowel in Oriya. But in Assamese, it is not the vowel, it is combination of vowel and consonant, ra and e. So we put it in the vowel sound, re. So pronunciation is different, and we put it in the vowel sound, and Madhavadeva also used it that in that sense. We can examine, we can find out these features by examining the word. What is the word? Whether it is re or ru. So this one kind of features we need further study, but I found it initially in these points. So phonemic value of dental, I already told it. utterance of neo as a consonant phoneme. Neo is not a consonant phoneme. It is a combination of three, one vowel and two consonants. And it is in the Tibeto-Burman languages. In Missing, in Deori, these sounds is prominent. Suppose this sound is nya, nya. This palatal sound, palatal nasal, that middle of the tongue touch the palate and air stream will come out through the nose. The nya, nya. This sound is not in Assamese. And these letters also used in different ways. Sometimes it is put in nasalized phoneme. Sometimes it is yo and so I have that example. So neo is not prominent, and in from the Madhavadeva writing, in random use of those letters, we can find out the actual features of the writings of the Madhavadeva. So I am coming to the morphological features. Lots of features are there, so only phonology can take 2 and 3 hours to actually explain here. So I am coming to the morphological features. And last few years, I have finding out one kind of features in Assamese, that is irrigative words of the verb and subject. Irrigativity of the verbs and subjects. Irrigativity means that nominative case marker is used according to the in condition with the transitive and intransitive verb. In intransitive verb, in Assamese, we don't put the nominative case marker in subject, with subject. Suppose Ram gol, Ram has gone, Ram gol. Kintu Rame khale, Ram has eaten. Rame.
Which means it turns into the derivative case,
No, not the
nominative case.
No, it is nominative case, it is zero marker. We put it zero case marker. Because we don't use any words in a sentence without having an inflective. So that's why it is Sanskrit rule. In the Sanskrit, Sanskrit we must put the inflection and suffix in every word. So this is the point. I find out surprisingly that is I got surprised that in Madhavadeva irrigativity is there. In Madhavadava's writing, but in Shankar's writing I don't find out so prominently which is in Madhavadeva. And irrigativity is not even analyzed in Assamese language also till yet. What is irrigativity? If you ask this question any of the language in Assam, whether irrigativity is discussed on Assamese language or not, it is not at all. So I try to find out the irrigativity. And I find out, I have one example and lots of example I have. One example from the Namgosha. It is not Namgosha, 82 in Namgosha. He hobo soturo nore madhavara namo gun kirtana karanta habadhane devara devata hori tahara hridayari saibako nabaro anusthane. He hobo soturo nore. No, soturo nore is the subject of this sentence. Madhavara namo gun kirtana karanta habadhane. Kor is here, it's transitive word. So it is nore is used, a is used as a nominative case marker. It is prominent. But surprisingly, I found another examples. Ahe hoki hobo, botsa hobo is from Bhavan. Ahe hoki hobo, botsa hobo bidure gel, dristiro gusoro nahi. Oh my friends, our cows are not sighted around, they have gone afar. Brahma. So I quoted it from the Angamala edited by the Akademi. So now this is the point. One sentence, this single sentence, I have found that Ahe Kokui Haba, Botsa Haba Bidure Gel. The subject is the Botsa Haba. He does not put nominative case marker here. Botsa Habe Bidure Gel. It is not here. So if Botsa Habe Bidure Gel, if he write down that irrigativity is violated in the sense of linguistics analysis, in the theory of linguistics. So lots of examples I have found in Namgosha and other place. So it is really, it has not been analyzed till yet. So what is irrigativity? That there is a rule, I just want to put it. There is two rules in irrigativity. So I bring it. Case markers are associated with the sentences. I am explaining that what is irrigativity. Case markers are associated with the sentences forming using the word for inflection. All languages works in terms of three primitive relations: S for subject of an intransitive, A for subject of an transitive, and O for the object of the transitive verb. So this rule, there are some another followings of these rules. These rules, two rules are there. A grammatical pattern. It is the universal rule of linguistics. This is the binary theory. We know that Somsky explained it, how binary theory, how we can analyze the language with the help of binary theory. And the grammatical pattern of process shows irrigativity alignment if it identifies S and O, subject of intransitive verb, and O, subject of the transitive verb, opposed to A. A means the subject of the transitive verb. The little bit difference, the class is there, transitive and intransitive. And another thing is that, particularly in Assamese language, I found not only transitivity and intransitivity is works in Assamese language. There is a lot of condition. Suppose in pronominal word, moi gharoloi jam, ja is the intransitive. Moi gharoloi jam. Manujone gharoloi jab. Manujon gharoloi jab. Moi kamtu korim, manujone kamtu koribo. Or is the same verb. This is transitive. Moi kamtu korim, not moye kamtu korim, and manujone kamtu korim. Same transitive verb. It is condition on the pronominal and nominal. Condition, precondition. And these kind of features I have found in Madhavadeva, particularly because he used lots of vernacular words rather than the Sanskrit Tatsama words. He used more vernacular words than the Sanskrit Sangadeva's words. So I am coming at the end of the paper. So it is explained already. And if we examine the Madhavadeva's language in the perspective of the linguistics, then we have to analyze all his works, because the structure of Namghosha is different and structure of the plays are different. The acquisitive case marker, Ramoko Doriye, acquisitive case marker is strictly used in Namghosha, but it is violated in the plays, in Madhavadeva's plays. So lot of structural difference I found in Namghosha and the other plays. I think that he tried to follow the Sankardeva to frame out the Jumura or Nas. But Namghosha is from own, structure is from own, and language is from own, and feelings is from own. So if we try to study the Madhavadeva's language, structure of language, we have to study each and every line of the Madhavadeva's writings. Otherwise, we cannot find the complete picture of the Madhavadeva's. So this is I am just I'm coming in the last point. I compared some words used, the structure of words used by the Sankardeva and Madhavadeva and the modern Assamese. So Sankardeva used Kahalu, Madhavadeva used Koile, and in modern Assamese Kalu. There is a variation used in the words, the structure of the words. And in Parija form, Kahalu, Namghosha, Koilu, and modern Assamese Koilu. Bhikkhuka mukhe, this ko, bhikkhuka mukhe, ko should be genitive case marker, raw. In Sankardeva, he used accusative case marker ko in here. But Madhavadeva rightly used Raghavara Bhavayo Sarani, Raghavara, on the fearless feet of the Raghava. So Sangatava used ko as a genitive case marker instead of accusative sense. Madhavadeva rightly, actually he used the modern structure of the language. The Madhavara Abhaysarane, and we in modern Assamese Bhikkhura Mukhe rather than the Bhikkhuka Mukhe, and Madhavar Abhaysarane. We in modern Assamese Madhavar Abhaysarane, and in Madhaveda's writing Madhavar Abhaysarane. Raghavar Abhaysarane, and in Assamese Raghavar Abhaysarane. Only in the difference in the pronunciation, not in the orthographic system. This is really surprising, and some examples I am giving, and after that I will conclude this session. Sangatava used Kuni, Madhavadeva used Kuni, and modern Assamese used Kuni. Oishana, generally Madhavadeva also used Oishana, but he used instead of Oishana, Ohikuni, Ohibuni, and in modern Assamese Euni. So it's a clear variation from Sangatava, Madhavadeva to modern Assamese. So Koi, Sangatava, Kori, Madhavadeva, in Assamese Kori, and Pawala, Sangatava, and Madhavadeva, Paile, and Assamese Pale. Pile. This is a really tracks of the sentence of the. Without analyzing the Madhavadeva's literature, we cannot find out the track of evolution of the Assamese language. So it is very important, and I again request Sahitya Akademi to bring out the people from the different places, how, and it will show the great integration of the Indian, pan-Indian languages, great integration. Because who is used, who means, that is Hamaku in Oriya, mu marker. First person marker who is used in Oriya, in Madhavadeva's writing also Hamaku, who is the person marker. So we can discuss together with the people of different states of India, and we can find out one integration, the features of integration of the pan-Indian languages. So coming down to the conclusion, 2-3 lines are there. The linguistic structure of Madhavadeva's writing is such a vast area which cannot be covered within a paper and it is worth to mention that stood in the shadow of Sangatava. Madhavadeva stood in the shadow of Sangatava, and he remains as a shadow in every aspect of the literature, particularly in the language. I have found 2-3 articles on the Madhavadeva's language. It is scattered in this bag. Most of the analyses are vague, not concrete analysis. So, Sangatava, likewise, the linguistic analysis of his writings remains underneath in the shadow of the Sangatavas. So, that's all my Would you be a question? Yeah.
Before having an open discussion, I would like to just read one particular point, that the point of dilution that you have referred to, we already know that by the time of Mahotsav writing days, the vocabulary of Sangatava got much diluted.
Yeah.
And it is nearer to the spoken language than the stylized vocabulary. However, having recognized it, many of these points that you have raised, I think can be conclusively established once we can have a textual analysis of the entire range of ways on which the Somalian
is the right person to.
Unless we have, because many of the copywriters, so many hundreds and thousands of copies were there, and many of the copywriters were practically using a kind of language, and at many times they were just writing at their own whims. So it would be very difficult to specifically say how much amount of dilution takes place, or no dilution at all.
Just 3 sentences. Number 1, the medieval poets. Yes, they were coming to Bhakti, no doubt. But they were more committed to the local elements and local people because শ্লোক সংস্কৃতক আমি লিখিবাক ভাল জানি তথাপি কৰিলো পদবন্ধ স্ত্ৰী ক্ষুদ্ৰ আদি যত মিলুক পৰম তত্ত্ব বিশ্বাসত মিলুক আনন্দ. The stree ক্ষুদ্ৰ very important. Then number two, this is the what I wanted to say, that before doing all this, before settling down whether no will there or not, you cannot say dilution because both these scholars, Sahitya and Madhavadeva, were two great Sanskrit scholars. There is probability in diluting.
But Madam, I think at that time.
This is my observation. Okay. Now the number part. Just I'm catching your words. Number 3. I'm done. Number 3, Namuha. I think we cannot believe that Namuha. Yes. Absolutely, it is Madhavadeva's own. But when we go through the wordings, particularly you see the almost 700, something like that. I don't know it better. 600 something or 700 bokhas are not referred. These are the translations. And you see the translation. Just let me recite from the Bhavan. Adhyaktasya katham puja. Just listen. Adhyaktasya katham puja vyapak eking visharjana. Nirupatvat katham dhyanam namatvat suchina. And this is the translation. Adhyakta Ishvara Hari. Adhyaktasya katham puja. Adhyakta Ishvara Hari. Kihote pujibata. Vyapak eking visharjana. Vyapakata kiba visharjana. Nirupatvat katham dhyanam. Etavanta murti pinda. Kenemote sintibaha. Dhyanam sintibaha. Okay. Nama Matra Suchir Bhavu. Nama Matra. And he was so intelligent. If he gives Nama, it will be the Nama of Krishna, Rama, Shiva, Vishnu, whatever, Ganesha, Kanimaya and everyone. So he was so clever, not intelligent. He was so cunning and so Ram Buli Kutra Rama. Ramo Buli Dui Kulrekha Kulise. It was no metrical, nothing in metrical composition, number 1. Number 2, not in his ideologies, at the same time, Nama, the
meticulous phrasing
also, so cunning.
Yeah.
And you will find in the Namgoha, I think the majority of the words are successful. In this way, Vyapakata Vyapakeki Vishacharam, Vyapakata Kiba Vikhacharam. Only one word, Kiba. Vyapakata Vishacharam.
That thing is right, but at that time of Madhavadeva, in the medieval period, Assamese script, Assamese the orthographic system are not standardized. After that, Hemchandra standardized it by putting the retroflex and the dental. At that time, if you go the Bhagavad bracket and other after the literature of the Avata and Abhramsa, we don't find out that symmetry of the orthographic system. So at that time, Madhavadeva, Shankaradeva picked up the language from the people and they formed their own orthographic system. And as far as I am concerned with the morphological features, the Madhava is the Sanskrit, Madhavapa, Ka is the suffix of Assamese. Ka is the suffix of Assamese. And suffix and prefix are used from their own. I am talking about the morphological features, not the lexical items. Particularization. Exactly. They picked up from the suffix and prefix, they picked up from the common people. So that prefix, suffix are familiar to the common people. And one sentence will be familiar mostly of the case endings. If we remove the case endings, the sentence will not explain any. Yeah. So that's why they picked up the case ending, particular case ending, pronominal forms and definitives, plural definitives and singular definitives, and these are the picked up from the common book. And this is the really this have to be studied, and with the help of the proper textual criticism. I have gone through many versions of the Namgokha and other the books, find many forms of the variants. So exactly. And then I go to the some manuscript of Sasipat from the Bhaskarama University, and 2-3 pages I just examine whether it is clear or not. But at that time, in these places I found randomly it is used because they use a non-standardized orthography in Assamese. Up to the
It's not like that, because of
the Lipika.
the
Yeah, Lipika. So really, transcription. So it has a lots of study have to be done. Yeah.
To process filing or something. Ma'am, do we have a Sukti Gantam in the Assami also? You don't have? Sukti Gantam. Just like Sanskrit. That is my difficult. But he's talking about nominative and derivative. So, do you have case structure?
Yeah.
We have in
Yeah.
I was talking about Sukti Gantam.
Yeah.
So you have 7 cases.
This is not 7 cases, 6 cases.
What is the
Agreements, grammatical agreements. We have 6 agreements.
Only 6.
Yeah. Yes. Sampradana is not there.
Okay,
It is limit or it is
please.
Fine. Sampradaya is
Okay, come to the
Nowadays it is not there.
not there.
Acha.
Okay, thank you, Astrology. Being an expert of chronology and morphology, you have very good deliberation. Your paper is very technical, but every time it's very interesting. Entertaining also. It gives a new taste to this seminar. So, linguistic analysis and development of Indian languages through Bhakti movement we have discussed, and we are all much enlightened from it. You discussed from Shankara Sahitya to Ramanuja Sahitya the development of Indian local vernacular languages and how the vernacular language developed with the development of Bhakti movement you have explained. You say that it plays a crucial role in every place of India. After Shankaradeva, there are 3 years that Madhavadeva spent alone and perceived the changes of the language of that period, and there is a reflection of that in his writings. You have discussed the chronological research of Madhavadeva's writing and the differences in long and short vowel, etc., etc. There are differences in our pronunciation and alphabets. You have very clearly explained that. So thank you very much. And I will request you definitely to come forward with detailed discussion on this topic, the present paper and write articles, etc. Thank you very much. Our third paper presenter, the last of the session, is very important one. In a seminar. Yeah. Standard market His topic is Satra Institution, the Aadhaar of Bhakti movement of Assam, Rural Market. Very interesting.
Dr. Arindam Godwater.
I have not done PhD.
Acha, fine. Right. He is a well-known critic, essayist and editor in Assamese literature. He has 4 published books to his credit, besides edited 12 books of short stories and poetry. He was the editor of Prakash, a literary journal published by Assam Public Publication Board. He served as editor, translation project and associate editor of history encyclopedia project. Som Sahitya. He is the recipient of Sahitya Akademi's Yuva Puraskar and Munin Borkotaki Award. Presently, he teaches literature in the Department of English, ADP College, Logon, Assam. Sir.
Respected chairperson, distinguished guest. At first, I'd like to make it clear that I don't belong to this discipline, and I read Madhavadeva and Sankaradeva as literature. I get delighted with Madhavadeva because of his excellent composing quality that has been beautifully said by Mahotsav. And always I follow Sankaradeva and Madhavadeva as a social reformer. And as I don't belong to this discipline, I like to consider always myself as a mere outsider. Therefore, you may feel that I'm just what he's doing, he's just here reading your words. At first, I want to tell you one thing, that I was very much enlightened by scholarly work by Rabindra Mahotsav, and he had significantly used two words in case of Madhavadeva. One is composer, another is quest. And from that point, when I tried to look the culture that was narrated by Madhavadeva or Sankaradeva and Madhavadeva, then I come to the point that is few minutes ago said by Madhavadeva, that is local culture. And for these reasons, I must have to say, it is my feeling that I like to consider these two kind of talent as less religious and more social reformer. And one thing I must have to thank Dr. Dhruvaji Bora sir, because he has given me the chance to participate in this seminar. And for this reason, after 20 or 25 years, I have read Naam Gukha again. Tar agote Naam Gukhar upor duta prabandha pohichilu Naam Gukha pohar agote. One Naam Gukha pohichu by Jageshwar Sharma. Another is Naam Gukha by Balika Kakatu. And after reading Naam Gukha, I always like to consider this book as perhaps the best example of Assamese poetry, and with all its qualities. As I don't belong to this, I have told that I don't belong to this discipline. Therefore, I have written some points, and I'll just read it out. The Neo-Vaishnavite movement of Assam, founded and propounded by Sankaradeva, was not only a religious movement, but a cultural and literary movement as well. The four constituents of these movements were religion, society, literature, and culture. And personally, I don't know much about the religion. By society, we mean societal values as large. Sankaradeva realized that illiterate, ignorant people could be enlightened only by providing them the excellent medium of religious education through music and performing art. The preceding non-secular incidences has trained the minds of general people with terror with the elements of religious supremacy of certain race. With the advent of Vaishnavism, also came the cult which gave equal right and status to every member of the society. In this process, Sankaradeva succeeded in upgrading the status of literature and performing art of our land. He encouraged people to perform bhajana kirtana for worshipping God, alternatively of idol worship or offerings. Shankaradeva composed devotional songs allowing people to sit together and to sing them. That sit together is very important. Along with playing other musical instruments like khol, tal, and hator kotha baigera thuni koise. Such democratic and secular consciousness led to the sense of brotherhood and unity among various classes of people, leading to the Assamese society coming together culturally as well as devotionally. And for me, always the culture comes first. The Vaishnava movement of Assam, initiated by Shankaradeva in the last decade of 15th century, is essentially different from, I believe, other Vaishnava movement of medieval India because of the contribution to the cultural history of the land. Because whenever I visit satras, often I visit satras considering it as a cultural site. The most notable characteristics of Vaishnavism of Assam is the Satra institution through which the faith was propagated and stabilized. The use of the term of Satra in the sense of Vaishnava institution appears altogether to be a new one in the religious history of India. The word Satra used in Sanskrit in two senses, firstly in the sense of almshouse and secondly in the sense of sacrifice lasting forms a few days to a year or more. In Vaishnavite culture, probably the word Satra has been extracted from narration of Bhagavata. The term Satra might have been prevalent since the advent of Shankaradeva, but the history of its terminology traces to times earlier than that. In the 13th century, in Ambari inscription, we find the special mention of term Sevasik Satra. The meaning of this word refers to the Satra where the Bhaktas or the disciples resided. Similarly, we find reference to the term Satra even in the reign of Mahamanikya during 14th century. Both of these inscriptions have been excavated and rescued by Dr. Pratap Chandra Soyuri. Ananta Kundali was junior in age than Shankaradeva, but he was more of his contemporary. In his biographical accounts, he describes how his father, Ratna Pathaka, the head of the Haju Khatra, used to conduct Bhagavata Path every day. Ananta Kundali might have used the term Satra to refer to the gathering of bhaktas who came to every day to listen to the Bhagavata Path narration. The definition of Satra for the first time was found in the literary composition of Vaikuntanath Bhattacharya, also known as Bhattadeva. The history of Vaishnavism in Assam cannot be discussed without a reference of Satra. In fact, the origin and development of the institution is intimately connected with the growth and development of Neo-Vaishnavite movement in Assam. Therefore, study of the Satra institution covers the entire fields of Assamese Vaishnavism since its beginning in the 16th century. The first preacher of Vaishnavism in Upper Assam, perhaps Vamsi Madhavadeva, who gave a complete Kevalya form to the Satras. During the reign of Ahom King Pratap Singha, he went into leveling and eventually establishing many Satras in various places. Later, he bestowed the features of Kevalya form upon the Purvabhi Satra along with all necessary customary guidelines and set up Sarihati, that means residing places for disciples, Manikut, that is Guru's seat, Namghar, that is prayer hall, Bharalghar, that is storage room, Badshara, that is gate, Otiti Sala, guest room, etc. in the premises. His successor, Mishradeva, got married, which is why the Satra no longer remained Kevalya in form and acquired transformation into Grihi form. Whereas the other sutras elevated through Vamsidupad like Avniyati, Garbhod and Dakshinpad remain ascetic in its features. Then there are some narrations on sutra. I don't want to read it out. Now directly I want to come to Madhavadeva. For Assamese society, Sankardev and Madhavadeva was not only a religious founder but also a great faculty who succeeded in conciliating people under a unified cultural agenda. I believe that culturally we people are organized and still the form of our cultural present identity was created by them. The only great person who uplifted every thought and theory of Sankardev as well as supplemented it with own values addition was none other than his follower Madhavadeva. Despite such significant talent, very less has been discussed and known about Madhavadeva. One of the main reasons for significant emphasis one of the main reasons for this is the fact that there is no Saritputi or biographies written exclusively on his life. All his life, he remained an ardent follower of Sankardeva, moving around just like a shadow. Thus, his name and life was also placed alongside Sankardeva's life history. In the years that followed till the present context, any discussion of Madhavadeva is only initiated when there is some discussion being done on Sankardeva. Therefore, whenever is needed to discuss about Madhavadeva, it can only be done by referring to the chronological history of sutras, Saritaputhis, and Shiluts of Vaishnavite society. In that context also, to discover and to rediscover also, sutra is important. It has been stated by Dr. Thakur, the most trustworthy biographer of the early 17th century, that it was Madhavadeva who expanded the horizon of the bhakti movement initiated by Sankardeva. He said, Sankardeva revealed the religion of devotion. Madhavadeva made it known to everybody. Apart from serving as the most trusted follower of Sankardeva, for nearly 40 years, Madhavadeva was instrumental in popularizing and stabilizing the new religious order by his organizing power. And therefore, his composer identity is very significant. That the identity of composer that is reflected in his social behavior as an organizer. Although he was extremely sympathetic towards those who were spiritually weak, he was nevertheless a stern disciplinarian in maintaining and preserving the religious and ethical principles of the faith. He did not hesitate to expel those who violated the religious discipline. He did not spare even the wife of Sankardeva, you know the story, as she worshipped images of deity other than his true privately in her kitchen. Although the foundation of the Sutra institution was, as I say, laid by Sankardeva, it did not develop into the full-fledged institution during his lifetime. It was Madhavadeva who completed the edifice of Sutra institution in structural and institutional aspect. Under his innovative guidance, a new pattern of Sutra was planned and constructed. He also made provisional erecting residential huts separately for married and Kevalia devotees around the central prayer hall. For the smooth maintenance of Sutra, a common provision store for supply of the essential daily needs of the institutions was also started to all devotees to contribute to their allotted quotas. Okay, those who were not in the position of contribute gave their manual service. In that way, he had constructed the structure. And I have seen in this, when I have gone through these things, then I have observed one thing that he had very strong sense of economic idea, and he put it in the guiding in his structuring process of Satra. The credit for instituting the practice of worshipping Guru Asana in place of an image God, it also goes to Madhavadeva. With a view of putting a stop to the practice of image worship, Madhavadeva introduced a system of paying homage to Guru Asana. Guru Asana actually contains the Assamese rendering of Bhagavata Purana by Sankardev or Namgukha Bhakti Ratnali by Madhavadeva. It represents at the same time two gurus on one hand and the adorable deity on other. Yesterday perhaps someone has said that there is a similarity with this Guru Granth Sahib, praying Guru Granth Sahib and Sikh religion. Madhavadeva had instructed his disciples in the following way. The Sama and the Kirtana are the image of my Guru Sankara, and Ghosha and the Ratnavali are my abode. As stated in the Kothaguru Sarita, edited by Upensundra Lekharu, Madhavadeva succeeded Sankaradeva as the spiritual head of the Vaishnavite community. But when Madhavadeva prepared to depart from the world, he did not nominate anybody to succeed him. That point is interesting. That means Madhavadeva did not reject only idol worshipping. He even rejected the idea of Guru. Perhaps in that way he tried to advocate that we should worship the philosophy, not the person. He said, I pondered over this matter 3 days, but found nobody worthy of shouldering the burden of religious headship. I therefore recommend my Ghosha, in which everything you may need has been said. My energy and my intelligence are all transmitted to Ghosha. Thus, we find that Madhava was principally responsible for elevating the status of holy scripture instead of idol or image of deity. The practice of worshipping holy scripture is prevalent in other religions also, and it was prescribed in Yogini Tantra and Kalika Purana also. The daily religious service in Assam Vaishnavism is called Nama Prasanga. During the time of Sankaradeva, prasangas were not systematized and subdivided clearly into different units. According to Kathaguru Sarita, Madhavadeva, while staying in Sundardiya, after the demise of Shankardeva, systematized and divided the daily religious services of the morning, afternoon, evening into 14 units. Except the Brahma Samhati group, the Satras of the 3 other Samhatis of Assam, Vaishnavism still performed the 14 unities of daily religious service fixed by Madhavadeva. After the demise of Madhavadeva, Assam Vaishnavism branched off into 4 groups or sections called Samhitis. The Brahma Samhiti put emphasis on Deva, the Kala Samhiti on Guru, Puruha Samhiti on Nama, and Nika Samhiti on Bhakta, or the holy association of devotees. I am coming to the last part, 5 minutes. With a manifold contribution to the cultural field of Assam, Madhavadeva is world successor of Sankaradeva. Even in religious issues, he systematized the daily prayer service by fixing the number and order of the performance. He organized and reconstructed the Bhargava Satra, which later not only center of great religious activities but also served as a model institution of Vaishnavite culture. The Satra was organized on the democratic basis, vesting all authority in the assembly of devotees that resides within the campus of the Satra. And after reading all these things, after going through his works, I have come to 3 or 4 points that just I want to. In the spread of Vaishnavite movement, the role of Madhavadeva in Satra, it played a very significant role, and there are some specific causes behind it. First, simplicity. The first thing is the simplicity. Therefore, perhaps both Sahitya and Madhavadeva, they have taken the Rupa culture, the folk identity or the folk culture. Simplicity of the cult is one of the main contributing factor. The simple form of worship initiated by Madhavadeva and popularized by Madhavadeva, it created a new movement in the Bhakti movement in Assam. Then the spiritual and the scholarly attainments, I have seen that this is connected with literary and musical accomplishment or composition. I have observed this thing that this spiritual and scholarly, that is related to musical and literary accomplishment initiated by Sahitya and popularized Mahotsav easily attracted people. Combination of two things. One is intellectuality, another is the music. Then the dramatic performance also elected one of the most significant factors to make it popular. And we have also seen that the dramatic performance elected on the occasion of the opening ceremony of the newly constructed Barkata Satra during the time of Madhavadeva was a new attraction to common people. On the other hand, lucid and the poetical Assamese verses, perhaps this is the region, the language which was used in that time was lucid, and therefore my friend, he was trying to establish this point that language is the source of modern Assamese language, because in any world language we can, if you observe that it comes from, always the modernity comes from lucidity. Then my last point is also we can observe one thing, that the religious discussions were basically in the time of Madhavadeva illustrated with suitable stories or parables. He has said that lullaby, some songs are lullaby. With suitable stories and parables. At the same time, there were religious discussions and debates with opposite parties on various occasions, and that was very much welcome. Therefore, from this point we can say that though it was religion, though it was a bhakti movement, it was a religious movement, but the main aspect behind that religious movement was culture, and the main aspect, the main force which has organized that cultural value was democracy. This is what I want to share with you. And again I want to tell you one thing, that as I don't belong to this discipline, I have read Madhavadeva as a literature, as a social reformer, as a great composer, and with this word I want to conclude my work.
Any question? Yeah, Ratnatama was saying about animations. So there is an information, Madhavadeva, there is an animation film. It's still, I think by next January I will be starting music. It's in animation, it's about Madhavadeva's life. And the director is Manju Bora, just for information.
Already I think last week was there, but my thought was even going farther. That's the Jumuras. Yes. Why not?
Yes.
I think
I have one submission. The entire seminar has discussed diverse aspects of Madhavadeva contribution, at times taking it as a whole, at times taking it as a part, with specific reference to the specific creativity, specific composition, etc. etc. 2 points I would like to just come into my mind, not exactly related to any kind of contribution made by the scholars during this session. Tarani was referring to the point of clapping. Clapping being a partisan form of the entire Kirtana system in the society, in the religious, services. She was telling that clapping is a part of the hand is used as a kind of instrument. Clapping is an instrument. There is another significant part associated with it. Because both Sahitya and Madhavadeva were bent on democratizing the entire faith, reaching out to each and every corner, reaching out to each and every section of the people, including the unlettered. So, clapping was a part of the democratization of the entire service system. Because I may not be a player of horn, I may not be able to play cymbals, but I can play. I can play. I can participate this with an extent, with a view to extending the participatoriness of the entire system, entire service. Clapping was introduced so that nobody is left out. This is just my feeling. Another important dimension which has been left out is the entire range of discussions. This, of course, it's not possible to include each and everything. After Sahitya and Mahotsav, there is a huge amount of biographical literature, both in the oral and as well as in the written tradition. And Madhavadeva was the beginner. Madhavadeva was the center. Madhavadeva was the initiator of this biographical tradition. Because for the first time in the Golgotha Hut, when devotees asked him, who did not have a pulse of the genius of Sahitya, who by that time passed away, those devotees asked Madhavadeva to relate the memories of his association, to relate the memories of the contribution of the great Guru to the devotees. And that way, for the first time in Golgotha Hut, Madhavadeva started the Sahitya Katha tradition. From that Sahitya Katha tradition, practically speaking, later the written tradition of the biographies came. Not only that, there is an oral tradition simultaneously with the written tradition. There was also prevailing a very strong, a very vibrant Sahitya Katha tradition at the oral level. Even today, in the Golgotha Hut, in the Kamalavari group of Hatras, there is a vibrant session of the Sahitya Katha. Sung by, recited by senior disciples, senior apostles, senior monastic bhagats to the large assembly. So this way, Madhavadeva's contribution to the development, to the genesis and development of the Sahityas is also unsurmountable. This is my humble submission.
So, we have undergone very fruitful discussions, and I have had same thought with Rabindra that both the Gurus, Sahitya and Madhavadeva, was as heartless, they were reformer of Assamese society. And they were very scholar, no doubt. But they have used religion as a medium through which they can unite the people of that period and reform the society, which was full of very difficulties or so many obstacles.
Sir, Mahotsav, I want to share one thing with Mahotsav. This word saint, personally I feel that this saint is properly not applicable. We should create another word in case of Akademi and Mahotsav.
Yeah, they are not only saints. They were social reformer.
This is a Christian coinage exclusively done to define the line of saints after Christ. So many saints were there. Practically, yesterday, Somali Goswami also described this particular point. In the Indian system also the word is there.
Sun, beside it is like a pair of safe point. Sun, safe point.
Not only poet, register problem. In the Indian context, sun is the word and it's different from saint.
Even in Christianity, the saint is not that. He has something to do with the religion.
So in case of Shankara Madhavadeva, you can use the word Mahotsav.
When we translate saint into Assamese, Hamta, Hamta Hadu hai. Hadu Hamta kintu, emotional কথা বলবো, বেশি উপর গেছে।
Actually, these things were discussed in my team. Why they are called Sadhu Santa? The word, this Sadhu Santa has come from the Adi part of the Mahabharata. Even the people with all lofty humanitarian wisdom, all Santa and Sadhu. But only they have nothing to do with the religion. Even in the Christianity, they are social workers. Seers are rishis. Seers are rishis.
Okay, let's come to the conclusion now. Time is going on. So we have seen that the movement initiated by Shankardev and Mahotsav was not only a religious movement, it was a literary, cultural movement, and it also gave a rich variety of performing arts to Assamese society. And this culture actually united the Assamese people till today, not only culture but religion also. So they have culturally united the people of Assam, and Madhavadeva introduced a system of placing holy books in their worshipable place. So, and Madhavadeva was a great organizer. He is not only a poet, not only a saint, but a playwright, a singer, a composer of dance forms, but he organizes the social institution of Assam, what is a very, very powerful contribution of him. With these words, I want to conclude my session, and thank you Sahitya Akademi for giving me this beautiful opportunity to share this session and also present this paper. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, Rabindra ji, and also all three wonderful papers. Though I was not present here, but I listened to both of your papers because it is already web live. It is all these proceedings are there, and you can see in YouTube also later if you want.
So there is a YouTube link.
It is a live, already it is a live it is. So anywhere you can see that. So whole seminar I have seen, except yesterday's little performances. At that time I was in some other meeting, but otherwise whole seminar. First of all, I want to thank all the participants who came from all the way from most of the people are from Assam. But it is very meaningful seminar, I should say, in the recent times that we had. Earlier we had, maybe I think in March 2019, we had a seminar on Shankardev in Guwahati. But I am not comparing with that, but it is a little bit more vibrant than that. Rabindra ji was there, and even Mahotsav was also there in Shankardev because. But this time, I don't know why, a little bit serious in all the speakers I could see, because they are well prepared and they came. It is a more vibrant, I should say. So I already requested our convener of Assam Advisory Board, Rabindra ji, to collect all the papers. When you go back, you can refine that and also have some kind of bibliographical information so that we can bring out a kind of volume. Because in the history of Sahitya Akademi, a national seminar on Madhavadeva, this is the first time.
Yes.
Though he was here 500 certain years ago. All efforts of our advisory board. So this volume should come. So that because after a few years, we all will disappear. But future generation, we should give something to them, what these people have spoken, because they are all well-known scholars. So it is good for the research scholars in future. So seriously, please send the papers. We want to, even all chairpersons also can contribute a paper. almost all chairpersons they have presented paper also except one or two cases, but they can also give a paper. We thought of having some kind of performance, singing along with this seminar. That was the idea earlier, to make it more colorful. But due to some this pandemic ban in Delhi, we can't have a cultural program. So that we have. But seriously, this seminar was good.
Are we allowed to interrupt while we speak?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so my suggestion is when the book gets done, at the time of the launch of the book,
Yeah,
it will really come to life.
sure.
If we can do that.
Yeah, that we can do. And also, yesterday we mentioned even Ratna also reminded that 36 years ago we had a monograph, but still we have not brought out this monograph into other Indian languages, which I think in the last 2 days I was thinking this Madhavadeva should be known to other language people. That is more important because Assami people anyway it is a household name. But other language people, for example for me, after this seminar planned, then only I started reading in Wikipedia and other entries and also that monograph and all we started. But before that we don't have much idea about it. Because in Northeast means first Shankardev. There is a full stop or comma. But after that we don't go. But so this monograph should go to other languages that we will take up for translation. And also if possible, sir, you were there, we should bring out some kind of critical study, reader kind of thing in English. And Shankardeva and Madhavadeva both. If we bring out that, so all India can read that, those kind of 250, 300 pages, readers kind of thing we can bring out. That is also will be useful for the scholars. Not only here, whenever there is a comparative studies happens between northeastern and southern part or other part, that will be more meaningful and useful.
Any weakness, we have described program also. If this were available in green,
that monograph is there, yeah.
That can be reprinted.
See, we have I have already checked. When we planned immediately, we have composed also.
Okay.
We thought of bringing out a reprint. We thought of even releasing here. But later we found 200 copies stock. It is there in our program. Yeah. 200 copies are available. It is some 15-20 rupees cost in those days. So once it is available. It is available. So once that stock is over, we can reprint. We are. Yeah. It is there?
No, it's
Not
not
there.
there.
Okay. Well, we already stock. It is there. 200 copies stock in. Yeah. That's okay. That also. Yeah. So with this, not much to say because all scholarly papers they have presented and we discussed in the last 2 days about Madhavadeva. We ourselves enriched with some new things. Thank you so much once again for making this seminar very meaningful and the same kind of cooperation and support we expect from all of you in our future endeavors. Actually, this was the idea of we started three years ago. We started this celebrating all saints of India, particularly those who contributed to literature. So we started with Kabir, then Kabir in Varanasi, Tulsidas in Delhi, Namdev in Bombay. The fourth one is Shankardev in Guwahati. In that series is the fifth. Earlier we already planned for Baswa because we all discussed about Shaiva Parampara and Sharanas from Karnataka. Baswa was planned but there was a floods in Mysore, so we had to postpone. And there is Akademi also it is there in our that planned series. So this is the idea of why this younger generation should know about these saints and what is their sayings and their what they said, how relevant even today in our day-to-day life. That was the idea why we want to revisit to all these saint poets. Instead of saint, we should say sant. Sant is more Indian kind of thing is there. So there won't be any objection to that sant. So with these few words, once again I thank all of you. Kumari, do you want to say something?
Yes, with the permission of the chair, Respected Raji, I would like to inform you that our beloved convener Dr. Trumajit Boral's today is his 66th birthday.
Oh yeah, you mentioned
It is his
that.
birthday.
Yes, today it is birthday.
So please to have a congratulations on behalf of the and I would like to request you to just speak few lines on behalf of the Academy. Wish him just.
Yes.
Our beloved.
Yeah. Anyway, even before his birth, Madhavadeva has started blessing him since yesterday morning. So Madhavadeva, when Madhavadeva and Shankardeva with him, so we are nothing. And he himself a doctor, we are all his patients.
No,
and in the university.
No, he is the vice chancellor. He is the vice chancellor.
I
Anything about it.
understand.
Yeah, newly appointed vice
On
chancellor.
behalf of Sahitya Academy and all our staff members, general council members, and all the scholars who are present here, and they came all the way from Assam and different parts of the country to celebrate Professor Durujit Bora's birthday. I congratulate you, sir, once again. And we wish many more such birthdays we should celebrate. And already government of Assam has given a big birthday gift to him. But we all know him. So that kind of gift anyway we can't give. But still, we should.
Can I have something from Amrit to conclude the session?
Yeah, why not? Okay. Thank you very much from our academy side, and sir, please.
To sing a song only. Put on the mind. These are personate. 1 minute, it is our personate that we have seen your page. What is described in our Madhavadeva language. Already you can also see it. Kino bhagya milana mari jaya yogura niramala rama pada dekino tum hari jaya yogura
ग्रुप फोटो बढ़िया है, स्क्रीन कर लो। खत्म तो नहीं हुआ सर, लेकिन अभी सर ने सेक्रेटरी साहब ने बोला ग्रुप फोटो रिकॉर्डिंग कर लेता हूँ हैंड स्क्रीन कर दूँ ना।